So I don't know. I think we're ready to go here. I guess we counted down enough seconds. He's got to start up the Facebook. Welcome to our panel discussion on filmmaking in Arizona, and we've got some fantastic people here on our panel to talk about filming in Arizona and their experience working here, and I think we'll all benefit from that information as well. I just want to remind you that if you go to Arizona.com, the film festival is ongoing all week. A lot of movies to see. And I also, too, want to give a shout out to Long Shadows, which is our panelists movie, which will be showing and screening tomorrow uh, at the Fox Theater at 2 o'clock. Tickets are $10. They probably should have charged 10 times that, and it still would have been worth it. So it's a great film. You got to see it. You guys got to go to this. So our panelists today are William Shockley, who's our director of Long Shadows. William's created has had a 30 plus year career. Is there any update? Are you 31 years now, or?
Probably closer to 35 or over that.
Oh, okay. We got to update your bio here. So
Sure.
35 years. I thought that might be the case, and has had that career in Hollywood and elsewhere, as well as an actor, writer, producer, director. Too. He recently directed Long Shadows, which is our movie that he's presenting in the festival, and William and crew will be there tomorrow too. You guys going to do a question and answer afterwards?
Yeah, we sure are. So
Okay,
there,
great. So
bring some fiery questions for us. We're ready.
exactly. Yeah. I see here too that you've co-written 12 feature scripts. I suppose that's gone up at this point and has produced 13 feature films and 3 TV movies as well. And you're a musician too, and
Sure.
have done some scoring and music too. So welcome to the panel here. We
Thank
also have with us Tiiu. Now help me here. Is it Loigu, right?
Tiiu Loigu.
Loigu, yeah, Tiiu, right? And Tiiu's had quite a career as well. You kind of have jumped around. You wear many hats, Tiiu. And on this movie, Long Shadows, what you did casting and producing, right? Anything else, and still photography, right? And I've seen your still photos. I'm sure in the press packet. Excellent work there. Great job. You've had also a career acting and doing production design. It just goes on and on here as well. So welcome into the panel. And finally, Grainger Hines. Grainger is an actor. Has appeared in numerous television shows. They just go on and on here. True Blood, Boston Legal, Nip and Tuck, CSI, Cold Case, and on here for Grainger. He's also appeared in miniseries. He's also starred in soap operas. Grainger has also done stage work as well. What a great career here, and of course stars in Long Shadows. So welcome to the panel, and thank you for coming in. First question I have, I'll shoot to William here, and again, if any of you guys want to jump in, go ahead and do so. What I know you've worked here in the past, William, and I know you kind of jump between Austin and here and LA, and maybe other points in between. But what drew you to Tucson as a filming location for Long Shadows?
Old Tucson Studios, 100%. I mean, I had shot there before, movies, music videos. I knew the set was great. I knew the interiors we could build out. I knew Gates Pass was a location that I wanted to shoot one of our scenes at. So I just knew the lay of the land. And it's iconic, that studio. I mean, we're one of hundreds of great Westerns that have shot there over the decades. So it's a privilege to shoot there, and it brought a great authenticity to our movie.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. You know, the visual style is very rich. It's beautifully done. You know, and I think you've mentioned in other areas your collaboration with your cinematographer on that. And I love this movie for picking up the the influence of the Southwest and the flora and the fauna and including that into the movie. How did that landscape and architecture that you chose um, influence the visual style, I guess, of the movie?
Yeah, well, obviously the landscape here, it's there. So if you don't photograph it, it's your own fault. The cinematography are, that's Aja Ritano, one of my dear friends, and we wanted to make a lush, masterful, not a dirt western, but something beautiful. We studied a lot of British dramas, Jane Eyre in particular, and that was our direction with the quote look of the film. And then I incorporated the same, I think, beauty in the costume design and the production design. I just wanted it to be a period piece, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a romantic Western. There's a love story embedded within everything. So I wanted this to be just a sumptuous, beautiful story.
Okay, and you touched on a couple of things there, production design and the location and whatnot. And to you, as a producer, what kind of considerations? I mean, when William came to you and said, "I'm going to shoot in the desert in Tucson," and some of these remote areas or around, Old Tucson or whatever, what'd you think? I mean, what goes into your expectations, and what do you have to do for the movie when you're going to a remote location like that?
Well, I didn't really have much to do with the production design on this film at all. I have filmed here with William many, many times for many years, from music videos to other films. So Tucson's kind of become her home away from home, if you will. And we're very familiar here. There's a lot of crew that we know and we're friends with. So it's just kind of a no-brainer for us. And we just love it. And we keep repeating and come back here all the time, and we just love it. So that's kind of, I just kind of followed along with him, obviously, and this was his choice. And I think it really definitely was a great setting for his film, for sure. And yeah, and the production value is incredible out here.
Now you mentioned crew, and of course cast is very important too. And you were involved in the casting, right, in this. So, what kind of considerations went into that? How deep a bench do we have for cast here? Was it good for you? How'd that work out? And I got to tell you, that scene when we open up in the town and the background players, and that was stupendous. I'm going, wow, So how did you get the extras and what'd you do for casting?
Well, actually, the background was actually cast through someone else,
Rob
Jensen, who
Uh,
is local here. I have done background casting in the past. I know a lot of the people that do background here. They're amazing people. We've been very blessed to have them. So that's kind of a different element or, part of casting. And then you have obviously your main cast. And that's where I was involved in that. And I had, I think, close to 5,000 or 6,000 submissions that I had to
oh
go.
my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah.
To in the various roles. And I knew that what William's vision was per character. So that's really important to know from a director's standpoint. So I kind of just presented him talent that was based on his needs. So that's
Right on. Well, that brings us to Grainger. Then Grainger, in your role, how did you prepare, for the role in this film? I mean, it required what? Some writing, some weapons play, and interaction. Physical, acting. How did you approach that? How did you approach this role when they came to you and said, you made it through the cut and you're who we want?
Mhm. I got to blow his horn before he talks. Grainger's a co-writer on the script. So Sheriff
Uh-huh.
Wesley Tibbs was written for Grainger. So,
Uh-huh.
so he
So
was
he
in
wrote his own part in there then, right?
co-wrote,
Co-write.
and
Co-wrote.
I'll let Grainger take over, but he was the man from word one off the page.
Right on. So
Well,
Grainger, as you were writing, how do you develop your character?
well, the script was written with William and Shelley Reed. And there was an original script that Shelley had written, and he had sent it to me, and I had read it. And when I read it, I immediately started thinking about William had made a short. First off, I had acted with William in what year, William?
13 years ago.
13 years ago.
13 years ago in Tucson. And I loved working with William. First off, I never knew what he was going to do as an actor. I never, he always kept you on your toes, which is a beautiful thing. And I always like thought about working with William and stuff. And then I saw this short film that he shot in Tucson. And when I read this script, I just was like, this is William's baby. He's got to direct this movie. And my process as an actor, and it turned out the way that I hoped that it would, that, he did direct it. But I had months and months and months of preparation on this for myself, and it changed a lot. But, as you're writing, William and I would act a lot of things out. I was in New York, Shelley was in South Carolina, and William was in California. And we would do these long, long Zoom sessions writing. And when we would get to a point where we weren't sure about something, William and I would see if we could get through it as actors. And that was a lot of our justification, I think, in what we felt a truth of the storyline and of the characters and stuff. Would that character do that? So it wasn't like I had all of a sudden, Tiiu called me in, whatever, and I auditioned for this and stuff. It was a different process, and I kind of I never stopped thinking about it, all of those times that we worked, and we worked for, I don't know how many months. It was 22 months or something like that we worked on this script. And, it was just a slow process. It wasn't like I had to jam. And I also play polo on horses. So being on a horse is not something that's, a scary thing for me. And I've done a lot of Westerns in my life. And so all of that stuff, handling guns and those kind of things, that kind of is second nature to me. But just the process, it's very interesting when you're like writing and you're thinking, and then you're actually playing the part too, And so that was more of my preparation. That was my preparation. It wasn't like I had to jam it in my, to get in the time before we started shooting. And I have had situations, where it's like last minute, and it's a pain.
Right.
Have to do that.
Well, this was shot in what, 21 days? Phenomenal.
20.
Is that right, William?
It was
20
20, what?
days.
20.
20? 20, yeah.
And
Yeah.
the average person doesn't know what that takes, but for a Western with horse chases and gunfights and shootouts and building, literally we built the shack where the main shootout takes place. It was a tall order, but preparation succeeded, and we brought it home in great style, I think.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's phenomenal. Yeah, on a regular feature, as you probably do a page or two a day. You guys were cranking it out.
We were.
On that, certainly.
I think a lot of the success, I think a lot of, and I thought about this a lot. There was a lot of preparation on this. I mean, there wasn't a day that we were writing that we didn't talk about how we're going to do this, or how, William would come up with, oh, this is going to be I can see this shot, I can see this now. I mean, there was a lot, the preparation on this, I feel like, once we hit on the set, it was fun, and we had some tedious days, but it was fun. It wasn't like, you know, we were worried about what we were going to do. I mean, it was laid out, and I mean, you got to be prepared to do something in 20 days. And I don't think we got almost, I think we got just about all of our work done every day. I
We
mean, I
did.
know that there was a
Except for
couple,
2 setups that I missed, but we won't
two
talk.
setups.
Which was
Out of how many setups, William? I mean,
many.
yeah. So, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that you have to contribute the preparation. You know, you got to put that time in to really think it out. And we had a phenomenal, Justin was phenomenal.
Prime Brink.
Fine Brink.
Brian Brick, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
from
was
Monsoon
phenomenal.
Productions, right?
Monsoon
Yes.
Productions. Yeah,
I mean,
know.
and those guys, that crowd, they really, really, really know what they're doing, and they really put it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that gives us a great segue back to William. I wanted to know, you know, how did you work with the local community? You know, and businesses, you know, how did that work out for you?
Well, brilliantly. I shot my first film 15 years ago in Arizona. So I'm a, you know, the second son. I'm great friends with Justin Kreinbrink, and the local crew here is phenomenal. So when you
Deep.
don't have to fly in your crew, I think we brought in, you know, a couple, 3 people. AJ Rotano, our cinematographer, lives in California. Some of the other Arizona locals didn't live in Tucson, but knowing, I mean, I'd shot with Aaron Araza, our gaffer, the camera department, Justin Monsoon, Tara Kreinbrink, a brilliant, she was our post supervisor. She did color timing. She's at Monsoon. Visit Tucson has always been my friend. You know, I call those guys, Peter and Brooke, and they're like, what can we do to help? So when you have the city on your side, it makes it so much just more inviting, easier, more of a fluid flow for the mechanics that it takes to get from point A to point B. So.
Right. And you know, being at Old Tucson, you know, it's self-contained, you know, it had everything pretty much that you needed.
Totally.
And it's not that far travel time, you know, so you aren't racking up you know, miles. I mean, their time, you know, necessarily, you know, there too. So that works out real well, you know.
100%. Old Tucson was perfect.
Yeah. And you know, I pulled up an old movie. I mean, an old music video. I think you worked on. Did you work with Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings?
I never worked with them. I worked with
Uh,
Willie and Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
yeah, maybe
I
that was the tie-in. I don't know. I thought you
yeah,
had shot with them out at Old Tucson at some time. I don't know where that came from, but
I
yeah.
wish. Keep thinking that way. Come on, David.
Yeah.
We shot Randy Houser Like a Cowboy music video out there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, right on.
yeah.
How about, you know, what you run into here during the time you were here, you know, as far as climate goes and any delays at all? Were you lucky? Did you have a good string of days to shoot in and good
Yeah.
light?
I mean, you know, Mother Nature is going to win. So, period. So you're just prepared. I mean, we had one day, Grainger and the lawmen were having this massive shootout, and the clouds were rolling in, and we had a long day. And Grainger, one of the setups, we're shooting pellets at Grainger, and one of them bounced and a rock hits his face, and he powers through it. And we get cut, and he goes, William, I think something happened to my face. There's blood all over the place.
Oh my
But
gosh.
we'd pull Grainger aside, clean him up. He goes, let's go. And then after that big, huge, long day of the massive shootout, the clouds are rolling in, and the cinematography was gorgeous. Our lead actor, Blaine May, walks out of the shack, and it's just gorgeous behind him. We wrap our day, and it starts to sprinkle rain. So, you know, and I've been in Arizona where it's sunny out, and then in the middle of a shot, it'll start snowing. You know, we've shot here in the winter. Literally, it's a beautiful blue sky too. He was on that
Yeah,
on
and
that
so was
shoot
Grainger
and
on
Grainger
Hot Bath.
on Hot Bath, and it just starts
Yeah.
snow.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is it they say in Tucson?
Wow.
Wait for 5 minutes for the weather to change, you know? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
If you don't like the way the weather is, just wait 5 minutes because it's going to change.
But it's so pretty here in Arizona. It's worth whatever, the heat, the cold, the wind, the rain, the monsoon, whatever. It's worth it.
Yeah, we
All
shot
of it, it's all.
we shot his short Common Threads. I don't know how many years ago it's been, maybe 5 years ago or something. And it was the end of August. It was so hot, but it didn't matter. It kind of added to the film and just
I like making that weather part of the
Yeah.
character, a
and
character.
everyone's in these costumes that are super hot and warm, but everybody it just really adds to the film. It's incredible.
So Grainger, you're kind of the attitude then that you know it changes, you shoot it. You know, you adapt and
Well,
overcome.
I mean, you have to consider continuity and stuff like that, but I mean, I like what the heat does to you. I mean, I like, you know, that you sweating and all, you know, if you're supposed to be outside and it works for you, but I like it. I think it creates a really interesting part of the film, a really interesting character that the characters have to deal with it. So
Right, right. Like you say, it contributes to that. To
I
the thing.
shot
I
the
mean,
Alamo in Texas in July. So
there you go.
in a wool army outfit.
Get right. Right. Yeah. Well, like you say, it contributes to the moment and it contributes to
Yeah.
your character and you just go with it, you know, let it take it do its thing. Um, you know, William, I wanted to know too, in working with your cinematographer, you know, I'd imagine you guys came out here and did some location checks and whatnot. How, you know, how did you decide times to shoot? You know, you used, you know, you had, you know, some night scenes, you had some nice golden hour stuff. You know, how did you use the light to help tell your story?
1000%. We were out there. I mean, one day we were out there at 4:30 waiting for the sun to rise to see where the sun rose over the mountain for the finale of the film. And you know, the sun has to be on your back. So we would block scenes in advance, clearly, based on where the sun was. You know, if this scene, oh, the sun's not right here. So we would flip a scene, tell the first AD, hey, scene 20 really needs to be at 10 o'clock. It needs to be our second shot, not our fifth shot, because the sun isn't right for that location. We used buildings to block the sun. So everything was, I mean, there was zero by chance. There was no happenstance here. It was, you know, surgically calculated of where the shots would be, where the camera would be. I mean, we had no time. So I had toe marks waiting for the actors when they entered the stage, because here's what it is, boom, boom, boom. Here's the coverage. We knew where the camera was going to be, what lenses we were using in advance, you know. And that's the only way to get through a huge journey like Long Shadows in 20 short days.
Well, you know, William, just to interject on that, I never, even though there were marks on the floor, there were, you know, you had it laid out in your head, not once did I ever feel inhibited. I felt like I could try anything I wanted. I felt like I, you know, you know, I had you know, your approval you know, to try something. I never felt inhibited, even though that, you know, and it was so well thought out that those things worked 99% of the time, the way it was laid out. So, but just from an actor's point of view, you know, a lot of times you go in, like, especially on television, William knows this too, you go in and you got marks on the floor and, you know, they've already got everything laid out and you feel like, well, what am I doing here? You know? So, you know, you want to feel like you have, you know, you want to be able to move and stuff. But I never felt that. I mean,
So I was gonna, you know, you segue right into what I was gonna ask you, Granger. You know, did Will allow you to go off the page? You know, did you guys make changes as you went, or yeah?
well, not so much. I mean, we would, if there was something that somebody wanted to change, we certainly would talk about it.
Yeah.
Sure,
The script was
sure.
pretty tight though, so you know, stick to the script. It's a good one.
I like that motto. Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions coming in. One of them asked, "How did you fund the film? How did you get your monies to do this picture?"
We have a production company called Tiki Tane Pictures with Alan Gilmer, Ricky Rushing, Tom Brady, myself, and Tiiu. And we funded the movie. Our production company did.
awesome.
Yeah.
So you know, you're your own investors then. If
Well, yeah, to to a degree,
right
yes.
on.
And we believed in ourselves, so we're
Right.
reaping the rewards of that.
Well, and then the next question, I guess, would be, you know, how do you expect to get your investment back? We all want to do that, and it's my understanding you've got a distributor, right? And this will hit the screen in August or September. Is that? I saw some varying times and dates there.
Yeah. Quiver Distribution is taking out theatrically September 26th in theaters. And they're a great distribution company that understands the Western genre. Concourse Media has taken the film out internationally for foreign sales. So they're selling territories as we speak. And they started selling the movie internationally last year at the Cannes Film Festival. So we've got the world covered. And September 26th, I'm really excited. This is a movie that'll be sprinkled across America. It's a movie designed for the heartland, and I'm really excited. We have a fantastic marketing plan built. We're bringing on some experts that understand, if you will, this almost faith adjacent type of movie. It's not faith, but faith adjacent. There's heartache. There's a second chance at life and love. There's redemption. There's good over evil. And so we're bringing on a company to help surgically market that demographic from coast to coast. So, and then
How have you seen, you know, over, you know, the films that you've done, you know, which are numerous, when you get to the distribution point or marketing point, and you know, how has social media, you know, impacted, you know, what you do now or recently?
I think it's important, you have paid ads that you can, once again, with a marketing company that understands your product and a marketing company that understands the demographic of social media. How do you can't do a shotgun spray. It's got to be a silver bullet to hit the people that you're targeting. So we have a great company that has a robust social understanding. So with paid ads, we'll be able to, penetrate the marketplace specifically and get people to the theater. Enjoy it on
Awesome.
the screen. Yeah.
So, you know, Grainger touched on some things. How do you feel? You know, you picked Old Tucson, obviously, and you picked Tucson, you know, in general. How do you feel that those locations and that setting influenced your actors, you know, and influenced you as a director?
Well, when you're living in an environment like Old Tucson Studios, it's hard not to feel like you're there. So as an actor, I mean, I've been an actor there in past projects. So
It's hard not to feel the history of the place too, you know?
yeah, you feel the history, you feel the exteriors there are great. We built out gorgeous interiors, very, very indicative of the 1880s. Once again, with beautiful, lush design on our production design by Daniel King. So I think as an actor, Grainger can speak better because he was one of the leads in the movie, but it's hard not to be just swallowed up in the moment when you're in such a rich environment.
And Paula Rogers, who was our costume designer, did an incredible job too. And that added a lot to it. And Paula's an incredible artist, and she really brought William's vision to life also.
Yeah, I've worked with Paula many, many times over the years. She addressed me as an actor, so she knew my sensibility. And I said, Paula, I want it rich and lush and layered and textured. She says, I understand. And she understood very well. All of Jacqueline Bissette's costumes were handmade for her. So
Wow.
if you're an actor, and Jacqueline was just thrilled with her costumes. So if you're an actor stepping into clothes that really feel right, a wardrobe that feels right, and is designed for your character, and Grainger can attest, Wesley Tibbs stood out in his own way, Grainger's character. So
She's dressed me before too. I usually talk to a costume designer about what colors I think look good on me, I mean, I didn't have to say a word to Paula. She knew everything. It was
She
He
great.
nailed it. Yeah.
She's
No, it was
really,
all
she's really great.
He's
Really
brilliant.
it was
great.
all it was all spot on. It was all believable, historically, correct. That's something that you want to make sure of too, because there's people out there that go, "Oh, that holster, I don't," and it all looked great.
She knows the authenticity of the wardrobe. She knows exactly what it is, and if it is right. So that's one of the great things about Paula. And she has a great team with her too.
Right,
I
right.
mean, the on-set people, they really, they take care of you.
Right. Were there any shots, William, or any days that were more difficult than others? Did how you mentioned things went real smoothly, and obviously, your pre-planning, like you say, was terrific. It really contributed to getting it done in the amount of time and getting it done the way you wanted. But Murphy's Law hits us in this. Medium, anything that you ran into that you either had to go to plan B or work your way out of?
No, I mean, some, like I mentioned, the shootout was really challenging because we had so many setups. We had so much ground to cover in a short amount of time, but we succeeded. Um, the weather was rolling in with rain, but we got saved on that. Not really. I mean, every day's a challenge. I mean, from day one, from the first shot, you're behind. You're eating your breakfast burrito and you're behind on day
Yeah.
one. It's just a fact. So you have to just be incredibly disciplined and prepared. We've said it 100 times now, but it's just a fact. And you don't you the actors, you direct the actors in the casting phase. You find those actors that are just brilliant for the part. Then it's just a matter of a nuance. Hey, what about this? Oh, and then so you don't waste your time if you have fantastic actors, which we did. Tiiu found brilliant actors for every role. So that was never really a problem. So no, really, time is your only enemy. If you're prepared, you're fighting the war of attrition. I will win.
And you call audibles when you need to, if there is something, and then he has to, sometimes, as we call it in the business, kill the babies sometimes, some of his shots that he had planned, but,
Of course,
but time is obviously a very,
your enemy.
your enemy.
You always have that darn AD yelling in your ear,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
move on, move on.
oh, yeah. That's true.
Yes.
So Tiiu, during casting, I'm curious. You had so many people to look at. You get it down to the main cast pretty much. How'd that go in casting once you started getting your principals and whatnot? Any situations there? Did you have time elements, or these people were only available at certain times and days, and how'd you work that out?
Yeah, not really on this film. I mean, all the pieces kind of fell together nicely. Everyone was available. I don't know. I believe that things happen for a reason, and there's a reason that all these actors are in this film. And we talk about it a lot. This film, there's not one performance that is unreal. Like this, everybody brings their A game to this. And so I think, like William said, by having really good actors, it actually helps
It's everything.
the whole thing. So it was a very easy process, a lot to go through, a lot of auditions to go through. And I don't have an assistant, so it's all me.
Yeah.
So,
In the case of like casting the female lead, that was huge. Dulce Flores was our female lead, and we had one actress that was just great. I'm like, that's the one. And then I'll never forget, Tiiu continues to look until it's over. So she's continued to look, and she yells from our office, "Come in here! I just found Dulce." And I'm like, "I've already found Dulce. What are you talking about?" I walk in, I sit down, I see Sarah Cortez audition, and I got chill bumps. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, she's the one." And so when you know it, you know it, you know it. And that was just a case in point that Tiiu is relentless. She will not quit searching until it's completely, she's out of time, she's out of money, she's out of options,
Yeah, and I present a few options also of other people, to the producers, of course, and to William, and and then they can make their final decision. But I really push forward the people that really feel authentic to the role based on what the director tells me. So.
Right. Well, you guys did a good job. You got Grainger, you know, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love
It
Grainger.
was,
We
it
built
was
the
stuck
movie
with
around
Grainger.
I mean, I cast him 13 years ago.
That's true. That's how
so
we met.
That's
Tiiu,
how we met.
Tiiu,
Yeah.
Granger and Hot
That's very true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, how I'm curious, you know, too, with that casting process, and you know, I assume it was maybe kind of a lengthy process, and then you guys all work together. How much prep do you have with your cast? You know, do you do a significant number of table reads? Do you have that much time to do that? You know, Grainger, did you feel like at it? Of course, you wrote the script, so you know, you were living the character and you knew the character. But I'm curious how much prep time you guys have, you know, on a picture like this.
None for table read. Because you're never going to get.
How quick did how much before the production started did Jacqueline and Dominique and Dermot get the script?
Well, they had it in advance, but in this case, we didn't have the resources to bring the cast into a table read.
Oh, right.
Jacqueline might have been in London. Dominic was maybe in London. Dermot was in Australia. He came.
That's right.
Dermot
Yeah,
came
that's right.
straight from, I think, the Sydney Sweeney Glen Powell.
Right, that's exactly right.
Set. So we didn't have the privilege.
But you were able to have conversations on the phone with all three.
That's true.
And
Yeah,
We had Zoom meetings.
and we had
with
Zooms with
Yeah.
all the actors.
Right.
They were cast, had a
Mhm.
Zoom, talked it out. But again, you know, you hire great actors, they come to the set prepared and
Prepared, right?
you know, that weird word called preparation.
Right on. Yeah. And great direction, right?
Doesn't hurt.
That's it. Yeah, that's what does it. You know, you mentioned, you know, working with consultants and costume designers and other people. You know, how did Tucson step up for you? You know, you got horse scenes, you got wranglers, you got, you know, set design, props, you know, crew support. You know, how did Arizona and Tucson in particular step up for you for your picture?
Well, they helped tremendously. You know, you're bringing in a lot of actors, the director, the casting, the producers. We had a lot of people still that we had to put up in hotels. So Visit Tucson helped us narrow down our search and get the best rates possible. They would help perhaps with car rentals, anything that we needed mechanically, you know, not related to the creative side of the production, but anything mechanically to help us control our budget. They're always first in line to offer an idea or a relationship or a connection. So that's huge on the budget side, to have a city that really embraces your effort to help you succeed on a budget.
Right. And I don't know that you guys know this. I mean, maybe you're keeping track of it, but I ran into somebody at the, you know, opening reception there, you know, for the festival, and somebody mentioned, well, do you know that Long Shadows contributed $3.2 million to the Tucson community, you know, in Arizona, you know, however that broke down for you. That's a lot. That's
A lot of money.
significant.
No,
We
it
want
really
you
is.
back. Bring more money. You
Well, we
know?
are. We're coming back in the fall with a movie called Who, WHOO, that Grainger and I co-wrote with Shelley Reed and Tom Brady to Tucson. So we'll be back. And we were the
And
first.
that'll be a little bit different genre, right?
It's going to be horror. It's going to be viciously catastrophic. But
Uh-oh.
Long Shadows was the first movie to go through the Arizona Tax Incentive Program with the Arizona Film Commission. And that's another great thing that Arizona now has, is that tax incentive it's a real thing. And I'm so happy that the state passed that legislature. And, you know, because filmmakers can really benefit if there's some type of incentive to come here, you know. So we're coming back again.
Right. There's a question in from a viewer. They're wondering about the process for creating the soundtrack, you know, the soundtrack elements, and maybe the music as well. How do you work with the musicians and sound design people, and is that part of your pre-planning as well? Do you sit down with sound design before you start, or?
Not sound design, the score, yes. The composer is Tommy Fields, dear friend of mine for years and years and years. We've written soundtracks for movies. We've written original songs, original albums. We actually wrote the theme song for Visit Tucson many years ago. They licensed it from us. So Tommy's a great friend. He came to our house and we had the edit done, and we went through scene by scene, stop and go. And I would say, this is what I'm feeling here. And classical music was the bedrock for the desire for the score. So you've seen the film; it feels very much like an orchestral piece, not banjos and fiddles, but once again a rich, elegant score to go with the rich, elegant cinematography and look of the movie. So that was certainly premeditated, and Tommy spent months writing that. Sound design's a different animal. You go in after the fact and work with a great sound house to design your sound.
Right on. Yeah, well, it was a great track. I liked it. I liked the depth, in the design, sound design, and enhance the story and the visuals. I think tremendously. It was a good job on that. One question too I wanted to ask was, how about stunts? Those kinds of things. Grainger as an actor, and writer, you don't want to write yourself into, well, I've got to jump off a 2-story building, not necessarily. Did you have good stunt coordinators, on that, or did you watch out for writing parts that might require you to get on the danger side of acting, kind of?
We didn't, I mean, I did a lot of my writing, but some of the writing I did not want to do. I've been around horses all my life. I know that they can step in a hole and go down in a second. And it wasn't worth it to me. I mean, when I was a young man, I wouldn't let anybody ride for me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. But now there's no reason. It's a long shot. It wasn't something. And we had Fred Davis, I believe, right?
Fred Davis, yeah.
Brad Davis did my doubling, and he was wonderful. He did a great job. And that's what I'm saying. The crews are deep here. They're really deep in every department, not just, every single department. And we didn't have, was there any difficult stunts in it, was it?
I mean, like Grainger said, the hard riding, Grainger's an excellent horseman, but Fred Davis was our head wrangler. Fred can ride
Right.
wind.
Mhm.
So if you have these horses blasting through a wash and going up an embankment, Grainger could do it, but I didn't want to know it. I need him to be the actor.
Right.
And it's not, anything can happen anytime.
Yeah.
And why put somebody in jeopardy that you're going to need tomorrow? I mean, it's not. That's Fred. That's the stunt double's job. To do those kind of things. And I, at this point, don't mind relinquishing. I mean, like I said, when I was much younger, I was like, I get mad if they wanted to do that. But not anymore.
Leave it to Tom Cruise,
Yeah.
I'll leave it to Tom.
Yeah.
He's brilliant.
Yeah, because I noticed, in some of those hard ride scenes, I mean, there was one scene, I think he used it in a double cut for all the riders, somebody ducked under the tree branch, and I'm thinking, boy, they come around that corner and forget to duck,
Yeah. Those were the great stunt riders,
yeah,
real cowboys
right.
doing those shots.
Right on. How about, you deal with, a couple of issues here: ethnicity and diversity, certainly in the piece, and also mental, disorders and whatnot. Tell me about that. How did you come upon, writing a Western that deals with these diversity issues and the, mental disorder issues? It's unusual, in a Western.
What you touched on, the mental health topic, that was in the original script that Shelley Reed wrote, and really that was it. That was it for me. I told anybody, I've never seen a Western with this twist in the movie, and it's true. So that was just that was the firecracker that set it for me. A good script is a good script, but Shelley had come up with a great twist. And then the diversity and the ethnicity, you know, Arizona's here. It's the 1880s. You know, people are moving east to west, all types of people. You know, it's next to the Mexican border. So once Grainger and I got involved with the script, we're like, well, let's make this character Mexican. Let's make her sister Mexican. Let's say mom and dad, who aren't in the movie, passed away. Let's make a Mexican family. It's right here. That makes sense. Let's bring, you know, a black man who had traveled west to escape, you know, the Union, you know, the Civil War, you know, is over. Grainger's backstory was that this man, Deke, he makes him his deputy. So it's just like
His father was his father. They all had backstories, deep
yeah.
backstories.
So, you know, America at that time was a melting pot of people. Why not illustrate that, demonstrate, and give it the respect that it deserves, you know?
Right. How about tone and pace, William? Sometimes westerns take a slower pace. Sometimes, they're more action oriented. How did you deal with the tone and pace of your film?
Well, I wanted it to once again not be a dirt western opening up with just like, you know, that's so obvious. You know, let it be a flower, let it open up, let the story unfold, and then let it build to a climactic point in the third act, and then bring it home. So I think we did that. I think we accomplished a beautiful story with a lot of layers. There's a lot of storylines going on. Jacqueline Bissette's storyline with Dominic Monaghan, and of course the two lovers of the mental health topic. Grainger's character Wesley Tibbs, his interaction with the judge played by Chris Mulkey. These are men struggling to understand topics like psychology, like the advent of the automobile, like the advent of electrical power plants being built on the East Coast, you know, and Grainger's character is basically helping part the veils of these new thoughts coming into the world. So it's a layered, textured storyline on many levels.
Yeah, I thought that was a very strong scene, Granger. With the judge there, and going through that whole scenario of mental issues and dealing with that and giving somebody a break, and analyzing the situation. I thought that worked very well.
Well, if you're halfway decent as an actor and you're working with Chris Mulkey, he's going to make it good. Believe me.
It's true.
No,
Right.
I think you helped a lot on that, Granger. Yeah. Um,
It's
okay.
actually Chris. Chris is someone I lived in Hollywood for a long time, and Chris, I had never worked with Chris Mulkey, and I would go into these auditions at the studio, Warner Brothers, Paramount, all over town, and I'd look across the room, and there'd be Mulkey sitting over there. I'm going, oh God, this is gonna be a drag. This guy's in the room now. I got to get my game up. He was always one that was always would push you as an actor because you know how good he is, and you got to bring your A game in. If you're going to get an audition, you're going to get that audition if he's in there. And I was so excited when Chris came onto the film to get to work with him. He's really a really wonderful actor and a heck of a lot of fun on the set. So
Right on. Well, yeah, I mean, you guys all have good karma and, good interaction.
he and William play music together.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true.
yeah, well, yeah, you guys have all been in bands and right.
Well, Granger's like he's famous. Go ahead, Granger. Call it out, baby. Give him
Yeah,
the
right.
give
I
him the
can't sing
5
happy
second tour.
birthday on key.
No, no, Granger's has his own beautiful resume in the musical space. True.
Yeah.
Which we won't talk
How
about.
I'm curious about, you did your production in 21 days. What'd you take for post? How long were you in post production? And where'd you do that?
We did
We did part of it here.
post supervision was done by Tara Kreinbrink at Monsoon here in Tucson. She's brilliant. Tara color timed the movie here at Monsoon in Tucson. We did sound design in LA, score in LA, editing in LA. So, the process, I don't remember how many days it was total because we had Thanksgiving and then we had Christmas and then, so we kind of stopped and started due to holidays and whatnot. But, you know, once you're in, I think the sound design maybe took a month, something like
Yeah.
that, 4 or 5 weeks. And I know the score took maybe 4 months to write, 5 months. Color timing was pretty efficient because Tara was prepared when we went in. You know, she had everything queued up and ready to go, and then it's just a process of determining. And of course, we shot the movie a certain way with cinematography, so we knew what we wanted, and then it's a matter of refinement when you get into
And
the
it just
film.
went together. Yeah. How are you looking at, were you looking at rough cuts between here and LA, or did you come
No,
back and forth, or?
no, you know, Tara would send the footage to our editor, and he would day one he received day one. On day two he was rough assembling, and so
Right.
on the weekends we could get together and look at rough assemblages of what we had shot that week, which is really fun to kind of see it, you know, roughly come together. You
Yeah.
know that you're
Yeah, kind of
on
a
track.
yeah, kind of an expanded daily, you get to
Of course.
see results and yeah, get them back pretty quickly. Well,
Right.
we're winding down, towards the end of time here. Is there anything, monumental, cathartic, and working on this particular picture for you guys, that you want to tell us about, any big moments with working on this picture and putting it together and finishing it up, and before the screening tomorrow, so how what do you feel, what's happening here?
Well, I feel proud, you
Mhm.
know, when Grainger called me, however long it was, 2 years ago. Grainger's a brilliant actor, and I'd worked with him on Hot Bath as an actor, and I saw the dedication that he had. Every day, every night at Rap, people would be in the bar goofing around, having a drink, and Granger's tucked in the corner looking at his script. So the day he called, I took note. I read the script the second we hung up, and I called him back. So there's a great sense of accomplishment and joy that I feel with Grainger and Shelley Reed, and Tom Brady and Alan Gilmer gave us great notes. But a great sense of joy to have spent so much time, so hard, working so hard. And it's a beautiful story. I'm really proud of the story. You can watch it with your kids, you can watch it with your grandkids. I mean, there's no, you know, nothing, no sexual scenes for the sake of anything. There's no foul language. So, and it's a gorgeous story. Our actors crushed it. You know, Blaine May, our lead actor, Sarah Cortez, Grainger down the line, David St. Louis, Chris Mulkey.
I have to say, when I read the script the first time, I all of a sudden had I don't know, I had an epiphany. I had like this moment where I saw the movie. It's not the movie that's there, but I saw the movie. And I saw William directing it. And that's when I called William up. And I have to say, I don't think I've ever had. I appreciate what you just said, William. I feel exactly the same way. I feel a real connection with you and in that sense. But it's just to be able to sit back in retrospect and see where it started and where it ended up. And I am so full of pride about what was accomplished, and that if I have described this whole process from day one when I called William. Do you know that Olympic sport where the disc goes down the ice and you brush it with a broom? What is that called? It's
Yeah.
called, I can't
Loge,
remember what it is. You
Loge
know,
or
there's a
something.
big fat disc.
Luge, yeah,
Luge.
luge,
Yes. So
yeah.
this movie has been like, this disc floating down the ice with something like a little broom, sweeping in front of it, making the path for it. It's amazing, this whole process, that it just came together. And that one element that William talked about, that psychological thing, that was the key to this whole. I had, as William said, never in a Western seen anything like that. And that was, I felt like the hook to this whole thing. And what you did with the film is remarkable. And it really is. I mean, I feel absolute pride with what you've accomplished in this.
You see a lot of
What we
William.
have.
You see a lot of William's sensibility in this film. There's so many tender moments, and he's such a tender man. So on the inside, on the outside, he's a.
To highlight Tiiu's contribution, the post-production phase, Tiiu's a classical pianist. A lot of people don't know that. So with the score, Tommy would deliver a piece and I would play it for Tiiu first. And she would say, no, that note needs to inflect up, not down. And then Tom Brady, because he has great sensibility. We did the color timing and Tiiu has the eyes of an eagle. And she would go, guys, you missed that one thing here. In the edit, she was sitting there. In the sound design, she has great ears. So all those pieces, though, shape the movie. The sound design is a character, the score is a character, the edit is a character, the color is a character. So to have a partner in life and a producing partner that can enhance the movie and make it better, that's also a great takeaway, a great part of my joy for this film.
Yeah, well, you guys are a great team. You need to have that, and everybody's making their contribution to make the movie better, and that's what it's all about. You guys hit it right on. We're running out of time here. Geez, I wish we had more time to go. It's been great, and I want to let everybody know that tomorrow, Sunday, April 6th, right? It's the 6th, yeah, 6th. I got to make sure you're at 2 o'clock at the Fox Theater. Big, nice theater. You guys are going to get a good screening. Go to the movie, everybody. You've got to see this film. You've heard from these folks. They poured their heart and soul into it. It's an awesome movie, and you gotta see it. Just very quickly in closing, tell us just a little bit, what's your pitch line for the next movie, divergently, different from a Western genre?
Yes, well, Grainger, it's a serial killer movie, and much like this movie, you'll never know who that person is. Out for revenge for all the right reasons. It's a horror true crime thriller. And I promise you, the three of us scouted this morning in Marana, and look out, buckle up. We're coming
mentioned
for
that
you.
location. I won't say anything, but it sounds fantastic.
It's going to
The
be
quote Schwarzenegger, "We'll be back."
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a great ending line. Well, I want to remind everybody too that films are showing at the 33rd Arizona International Film Festival through the 13th. You'll get to see a lot of movies, and again, I can't reiterate any more to go see Long Shadows. It's awesome and epic, and so pick up on that, pick up on whatever else is going on in the festival, certainly. And hey, guys, I really appreciate being on the panel here with you. It's been enlightening and informative, and we're so glad to have you guys as filmmakers, come here to Tucson and support our community and work in our community. And we're so glad you're coming back too. That's an important thing too.
We want to thank the Arizona International Film Festival for having us, and by chance, and as it should be, the world premiere of our movie here in Tucson. So
right on. Yeah, right on.
We're excited for that. It's so befitting.
Yes.
Yeah.
We could have landed in a bunch of different places, and collectively we're also thrilled to be here in Tucson.
It's serendipitous.
Yeah, we're glad to have it's karma again. You guys have good karma, So yeah, well, we look forward to seeing it.
Thanks, David.
And
great host.
yeah, and you guys have a good rest of your stay, whatever length that is here in Tucson. Good luck on the screening, as well. I know it'll go fantastic, and thank you very much for participating in the festival, participating here in Tucson, and participating in this panel. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
David.
you.
Appreciate your time.
Yep. You bet.